Greetings tonight, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Tonight is going to be a fun night of discussing one of my favorite sci-fi movies, Valerian, and the City of a Thousand Planets. Now, this is actually a comic book that was written by Pierre Christian, and you can find his comic books on Amazon. But this was a movie that was directed by Luc Besson, who also made The Fifth Element and also Lucy and a few other movies that I really enjoyed. But the reason why I thought that I wanted to add this to my channel is because the particular beings that we're going to talk about today are the pearls in the movie Valerian. And these beings are an advanced race of beings. I consider them sea elves in the way that they look, but also in their mannerisms and how they live in harmony with nature. But we're going to discuss about them and what makes them advanced beings and how they are so much more advanced than humans. But I believe that a lot of times we get inspiration for how our higher selves can be within entertainment. So this is a way to look at it through just analyzing these particular characters that I really, truly loved, the pearls. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown. I hope you had a chance to watch. So welcome if you are joining in. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. If you did not get a chance to watch, you're going to get a pretty good rundown so that if you never ever get a chance to see it, at least you'll understand these beings. And I've highlighted certain behaviors, and the way that they behave is basically what makes them more advanced beings. And hopefully that inspires you when you hear about them. So the movie starts out with us getting an idea that the human race is basically exploring space, and they are extending out with this huge space station that they created, and it's called the Alpha Intergalactic Space Station. And the year is about 2050, actually 2150, when they start to meet all these different aliens from around the universe. And so they start to join together in this galactic space station that's orbiting above Earth. And it gets to be so large in size and mass that it has to be let go and kind of sail off on its own because it was becoming a danger to Earth because it was so close to Earth's atmosphere. So it becomes a space station that actually becomes a city of 1,000 planets. And what that means is basically there's a lot of different species that are living together on this space station that's floating around the universe. So we have that introduction, but on the side of it, we start learning about a planet named Mule. And Mule is very similar to kind of Lemuria, I always thought when I first saw it. It's this beautiful beach paradise planet. Looks very much like the picture behind me. You could see a picture of the Pearl Princess in the image right now that I'm sharing. And it's just this absolutely beautiful planet that inhabits about 6 million different types of species, aquatic life. You have the sea elves, which are the main species there that live together on this planet. And they're tall, luminescent beings, pale in color because they basically, they glow, they shimmer and they shine, and they have this kind of bioluminescence to their skin. They also have this kind of way of showing their energy, what they're feeling inside, outside. And they're just really beautiful and very intricate in the way that he designed them, I believe. But the pearls have a great wisdom, and they are living in harmony with nature. And so they can teach humans a lot about how to give back to nature, because they have this ritual where they give back 3 times a year of what the sea gives to them. They basically live close to the sea, and they live off of the aquatic life there. And they live in these beautiful, like, seashell castles or these homes, and just really a gorgeous looking planet. And they greet each other in this way that just immediately makes you feel very peaceful within. They say Melame, and they touch their foreheads, and they greet each other that way, just the same as, you know, the elves would greet each other and say "Mae Govannen" in Lord of the Rings. So it's a very similar type of way of being, in which they're very respectful towards each other, and they're offering greetings to each other, so that it gives a really great sense of community on their planet together. And they have a really beautiful way of being almost like androgynous. In fact, Kate Blanchett, who is also the voice of Gladriel, is actually the Emperor's voice. And so she plays the king, and his name is Habin Lema, and his wife is Aloy. But Kate Blanchett's voice is for the Emperor. So there's this really neat kind of androgynous, kind of gender fluid ability of these beings, and you see that in the movie. So I thought that was really creative and very telling about kind of the world that we're living in now, where we do have those that do experience themselves in a gender fluid way. So I think it's really great for people that are trans or non-binary to be able to resonate with these beautiful beings that are of an advanced intelligence. And so we have this introduction of these beings living very peacefully on the planet together. And we get to see the princess Lihu, Mina, and she kind of shows us around a little bit. And she has this dragon-like little creature that's a converter, where if you put one pearl into its mouth, it converts, or actually replicates, and basically creates all these other pearls as a copy. And the pearls they actually use for their energy on the planet. It's their technology, which we'll talk more about later. But we're getting this introduction because right before all of this is being shown to us, we're seeing also there's a war starting right above the planet Mule. And so the planet is actually kind of in the crossfire of 2 other species fighting above. And it happens to be the humans with another type of extraterrestrial species that they're fighting. Well, before the planet is destroyed by what seems to be invaders, we see Princess Lihu give her soul up, and she sends a bright light into the universe that awakens Agent Valerian relaxing in his ship somewhere. So that's kind of the intro. We know that they are advanced beings as the pearls because it elevated Valerian's cerebral activity and left memories or images that are not his. So the ship has a way of looking at his brain and scanning it after he got hit with this light from Lihu that ended up giving her soul up, because she was dying when their planet was being destroyed. And so he has this heightened cerebral activity. So these are extremely advanced beings that are definitely more advanced than humans in many ways. And this advanced race of beings, they escaped from their dying planet, except for the princess here and many others. But they escaped because they hid on a piece of wreckage that fell onto their planet, and that wreckage happened to be man-made by humans. So it turns out the ship was made by humans, and though the human military officers and the commanders saw them as savages, and they didn't really think that there was intelligent life on this planet, Mule, these beings learned the mechanics of the human ship. by studying its parts and learning how humans lived and everything that they could about Earth and how humans interacted in the studies that they learned. So they learned all sorts of human languages, mathematics, physics, chemistry, philosophy, and even other stars and other species that are across the universe too. Their behaviors are so advanced. They are peaceful beings, the pearls are. However, their advanced technology helps them to defend themselves. And what's so interesting in this movie is that you see all these opportunities for the pearls to attack or to seek revenge and to even kill others because their technology is far more advanced. But their technology puts people to sleep instead with a jelly-like substance that covers people in the council so that they can take the general or the commander with them. They do not kill anyone when they have the chance. And so that right there is an indication of a more advanced race that understands the sacredness of life. They don't kill unless they would have to through self-defense, but even through that, they found a way where they can just put their enemies to sleep. Another way that they're really advanced is that when the pearls die, they know when they are dying. So a moment before they die, they release all of their leftover energy in their life, and it moves out of their body and travels in a waveform across space and time. And sometimes it will reach a benevolent host, the emperor said, of the pearls. And when that happens, that's when you become a guardian of the pearl soul. And only for a little bit, a moment in time, until maybe there has to be a message that has to be delivered. But Valerian ends up being the guardian of the princess soul because, remember, she ended up dying. So she gave her soul, her energy, as the last bit of images and memories of the planet. And Agent Valerian ends up getting all these images. So this is kind of what helps to lead him to the remaining pearls that are basically stowaways on the Alpha Intergalactic. And so they are trying to just find another home. They're trying to actually create a new planet for themselves because they are the leftover remaining of their species. The rest of them died. But they have this way of knowing exactly when they are going to die. And before they do it in a voluntary way where they release all of their energy. So they're extremely advanced in the idea that they know when death is coming. They see it as a transition, nothing to fear, but to accept. And when they do accept, they then release their energy and they know that it's time. In fact, when the princess was ready to die, she gave her last greeting, Malome, and then ended up dying. They also can sense energy or souls in one another. So they're extremely empathic, where they can sense the energy of each other. In fact, her brother sensed her soul within Valerian. And even though Valerian never said anything, he just was able to sense his sister's soul in the agent's body. So they're incredibly sensitive to different energies, and they can read different energies of different beings and different species. The other way that they're really advanced is they lived in harmony with the elements, and their main activity was fishing for the pearls that contain huge amounts of energy, and they helped to fertilize their land. They helped control the winds and tides of the planet, and they really lived in this way for centuries and centuries before what they call the apocalypse, which was when the humans ended up destroying their planet because they were fighting other beings right above them. So very sad, but it shows the effects of war, that even though the humans thought that they were only fighting another species, well, right below them was this whole other planet, and they just basically sacrificed it to win the war in their own way. And they ended up destroying this entire planet of these beautiful beings, the pearls. So the interesting thing, and I think it's so inspirational in this way, the pearls lost their home. They lost 6 million of their species. And yet, during that time, they were not so filled of anger and hate that they sought revenge. Instead, they learned all they could. They are incredibly intelligent beings where they actually learned as much as they could about humans. And like I said, they learned the languages, they learned philosophy, mathematics, science. They learned everything they could on this this wreckage of a ship that still sort of worked, but by the time that they got done fixing it, it definitely did work, and they were able to float until they were picked up by the intergalactic space station. But they said that they spent their time learning and letting go of their anger. So they're so introspective of a species where they don't hold on to their anger. They, of course, were angry and sad and upset that their whole planet was destroyed. I mean, can you imagine? But instead of immediately reacting, they ended up thinking about what else can they do? How can they find a new home? And during that time, they let go all of their anger and started to forgive those that destroyed their home. So this is an incredibly advanced race of beings, because most people would probably try to find who destroyed the planet and try to attack. But these beings are at a different level of consciousness where they understand this interconnection to even their worst enemies in the universe. And so they have a very deep spiritual sense of unity to all things. And so they have that information within them spiritually, and they were able to eventually just let go of their anger and to forgive, but they never forgot what happened. And so after the salvaged wreck was picked up by the Alpha station, they spent their time living amongst the other species. There were 300, let's see, I wrote it down here. There were 300 million, actually, sorry, 30 million population, 3,236 species from the universe were on this station, and 5,000 languages that did not include computer languages. And this space station has traveled 700 million miles around the universe. So what they did during their time being stowaways, they basically went around all the different species and they learned all they could from the other aliens in order to recreate their planet one day. So all they really needed that was left to get was the Mule converter, which was that little dragon-like creature that you put a little pearl in it and out shoots more pearls. And of course, the agents had it because, well, they took it because, like, the government believes that once you find something, it's yours. So they ended up taking the converter, and the pearls are after that converter. And they say, we can forgive, but we can't forget. And the emperor, after they told the story to the agents, when Valerian finally met them as stowaways and learned about all this terrible past history of the humans destroying the planet Mule, they ended up saying, well, we can forgive you, but we can't forget. And you've heard our story, and now our destiny is in your hands. I mean, can you think of like such an advanced race of beings that they know that they're the last of their kind, and they're going to lay that in the hands of Valerian because they know it's part of his destiny as well to be able to choose for them and to give back the converter instead of trying to keep it for himself, because that meant a lot of growth for him too, to give it up, because he's an agent of the government, and he basically says he's a soldier and he will always do what he's supposed to do. But Laureline, his partner and also his love, she said, Well, do you trust me? Because this is far bigger and greater than following commands of the army. This is about love. This is about offering another chance to a species so that they can live and thrive once again. And so it was a big test for Valerian. Would he give up the Mule converter so that they could actually create their planet once again? So you got to watch the movie to get it all, but I'm giving you some of the basics so you understand. And so the pearls, we see that they're very peaceful. They're not trying to seek revenge at all. They have let go of any of their anger that they ever had. They're very forgiving. And in fact, they're so peaceful that when the commander finally comes around them and starts yelling and screaming because, he is basically trying to cover his own self for the decisions he made to destroy the planet, well, you see the pearls in the background. They're jumping at his yelling. So you see that type of emotional reaction is something that doesn't happen amongst their people. They are so contained within themselves. They're so aware of themselves. And so they're not reactionary in that way. So they're jumping every time the commander is yelling. It's really interesting to watch their actions behind the scenes when you're looking while the commander is talking to Valerian as the agent. And so the pearls are jumping because their people are not used to this display of unrestrained emotions. And the emperor tells the commander, finally, Kate Blanchett, her voice at least, comes over, and the emperor says to the commander that you are your worst enemy. And unless you make peace with yourself, then you won't have a future. Unless you make peace with the past that you know that you did, then you're not going to have a future. So showing a little bit of foresight and understanding that, the commander is not going to be a commander for very long. He's not going to be in this position of power unless he really makes amends with some of the other choices that he made to destroy this other planet, Mule, during a time of war. And so the emperor just gives that, little bit of wisdom to him. But of course, the commander is a very hard-headed man, and he's not going to change very easily. He's not an advanced being like the pearls. So when the agents finally give the Mule converter over, the queen says, Melamina, which is another way, I guess, saying thank you. And Laureline, what I really loved is that even Laureline, the agent, she doesn't speak their language. It's just that exchange of emotion, of gratefulness and gratitude coming from the pearls was experienced by her. And so there's a funny part where you just see on her face that she's so touched by the gratitude that the queen shows, because she knows that she has done something good for them, and that this will really give them a second chance to have another planet to themselves. And so Agent Valerian's like, oh, that means thank you. And she just rolls her eyes. She's like, yes, I know, I got it. Then the queen, eventually what ends up happening is there's a lot of action towards the end where the commander does not want to give in a way. And so he's on this war path to destroy these beautiful beings, the pearls, that are stowaways on his space station. And what eventually happens is that the converter is able to actually be used and to create their planet out of the wreckage. And it's just very high advanced technology that you have to watch. It's really great how it does it. But basically it changes everything into the planet once again that they were living on. But it's basically just a spaceship. But inside it looks like the planet Mule. And so when they eventually get to a place where they're safe back on their planet inside of the spaceship, the queen then releases the soul of Lihu Mina, the princess, from Valerian's body. And once they change the salvage wreckage into their home planet, once again, she says now she can rest in peace. And she releases the princess. And we see a really interesting interaction between the humans and the pearls, where the pearls know that the soldiers are armed and they're ready to do battle without any weapons. They actually come outside to greet the soldiers, and they greet them in their peaceful greeting by touching their forehead and offering them that greeting to try to disarm them peacefully. But the commander has other ideas, and the commander does not back down. And eventually there's a little bit of a outbreak of violence between the pearls and the humans, but the pearls never shoot back. But eventually they do escape, and they escape in the salvage ship, which is now their planet home. And the pearls are able to create the planet by a really interesting way of manifestation. They actually huddle together while the converter is being used to transfer the energy of all the different pearl energy that they have. They're actually forming a circle, putting their heads or their foreheads down together, and probably linking up consciously to manifest their planet and their home once again. So you see this incredible power of the pearls to manifest their home with the help of the converter, with the help of the pearls that are very highly charged energy elements. And finally, the farewell that they give Valerian, because the pearls do make it out in time before the humans get to them, and they blast off into space. But before they do, the pearls say, "We must leave now. May your people live in peace wherever you may venture in time and space." And that's what Cate Blanchett says. She's the voice of the Emperor, like I was saying. So there's this really beautiful way of showing these advanced beings how they're extremely peaceful. They're not warlike in nature. They tried their best to basically create their home and get back what they needed to create their planet, but they never meant to hurt or harm the humans, even though the humans destroyed their planet. And I just think that that's such an inspirational character that was written into the story, that it's something that many humans can be inspired by. I mean, I know that when I saw this, I was like, well, first of all, I want to live with them on their beautiful planet in harmony with all of the elements. I would love to be a pearl. That would be amazing. But it's just an incredible way of showing how we don't always have to choose war, and we really have a greater power when we are in a place of our own humility and our own peacefulness. And so this, I think, is a way to look at the future and the advancements of humanity. Can we aspire to being as peaceful and loving as these beings? This is something that I think that we can be inspired by in the way that they greet each other, the way that they're living in harmony with nature, and they give back 3 times a year, which is very similar to the way that the Native Americans and many other people that live very close to the earth, they did that. They used to give back a gift to nature that was an expression of gratitude for what nature gave to them. And so there's this way of creating this really beautiful ritual of balance and giving and taking. And it's just a way to make sure that they never took too much in excess from their home planet, and always was able to live in abundance. And it was just a really great way of showing how you really can. The other character I wanted to talk about on the movie was actually Bubbles. So I'm going to go to share here. I have another picture. Bubble, actually just Bubble. Bubble is another character which I think was a very smart way of discussing how, that's the wrong one there. Another smart way of discussing how an empathic type of being can be. In this one in particular was the system one. There it is. This is a glamopod, or at least, well, this is Bubble, who ended up helping Valerian change his appearance, voiced by Rihanna. the singer. She did a great job, actually, doing a performance and dancing. But Bubble is a stowaway also. She's actually an illegal alien that doesn't really have a home. So she found the Alpha Intergalactic Station, and she made her living by just performing in kind of this area. It's kind of like I guess you could call it like almost like a, how can I say, an entertainment district of the humans on Alpha Galactic. And so she's dancing for people, but while she's dancing, she actually can change into any form, and she's a complete shapeshifter. But beyond just being a shapeshifter, she's this really highly sensitive, empathic being where she can actually use her tendrils, and she can put them on the back of a person's head, and she can read the thoughts. And so she can actually scan people's minds, and she could get any character down by just doing that. And she can actually shapeshift into that being itself. But I really enjoyed her part in the movie where she offered a way for Valerian to learn how to be a little bit more vulnerable with his emotions, to be more open, because the whole point is basically he's in love with his partner, Laureline, and she's just not she's not really responding. And it's because he plays this kind of tough guy, and he's like this man that has dated a lot of women, and she knows that. And he's also not willing to be very open and vulnerable with his own emotions. He's not really ready to be in a committed relationships and settle down. And so Bubble helps. She kind of brings in this sensitive part to the movie to help Valerian just be a little bit more open with his own emotions. And so I just love that element within the movie, showing how advanced beings are always very aware of their emotions too, because it's not good to hide how you truly feel. We always have to be very authentic with ourselves, otherwise we hurt those that we might really love and we want to be open with. But because we don't have this transparency with our emotions, sometimes we can push those that we love away. And so she's trying to kind of coach him when he's like inside her body and changed into a different form, but she can read his memories. And she's like, do you want to talk about when your mother passed away and things like that? And he's like, no, let's not talk about that right now. The movie to me was very good. It's a little rushed because I felt like it was such a beautiful exploration of different beings and different alien species and worlds. And I felt like there could be a lot more time. So I would love to see sequels of this. Like I almost want to read the comic books because it just seems like it's really intelligently written, and it seems like the person that did create these different alien species knows what they're talking about with advanced beings and how advanced beings would interact and how they would behave and how they would live with one another. So I'm really interested in actually reading the comic books. I don't know if any of you have. If you have, let me know if it's good, if it's worth it, because they're expensive, but I would love to read them. And that's the whole thing about the movie, is that I wanted more. I wanted to see more of these worlds, because they talked a little bit about the different species of aliens that lived in the station, and it was just so fascinating to learn about all these different advanced races that are living amongst the humans. But the pearls are just absolutely beautiful. I heard some other of you say that you thought that the movie was really good for that particular reason, that the pearls, that they're like your favorite character. And they definitely were for me too. When you see them and how they interact and how they're so graceful and gentle and very similar to the elves of Tolkien in many ways, but different. They're aquatic beings, they're different. They also have a little bit of like a tribal type of a way of being, but they're absolutely not savages as they were called in the movie, which was totally wrong. And in many ways, it showed this kind of judgmental part of humanity where they just kind of judge a lot of those that might not live in a kind of a modern, more maybe civilization, that they're supposed to be savages, but that's not true at all, especially with these advanced beings. And also, we know that about our tribes on this planet. Many of our tribal nations that still exist, they live very close to nature. They have their own type of wisdom, their own type of civilization. And a lot of times there's racism against them, thinking that they're not, civilized, but it's not true. And so I like what they were trying to say here, is that we really shouldn't judge, and we should understand and try to learn from those that are different from us, because we can really gain a lot of wisdom that way. In fact, the way that the aliens were, when the pearls ended up learning from other species, in many ways, that's how humans should be. They should want to learn from each other and grow from each other, almost like absorb each other's gifts and abilities. And that's exactly what the pearls were able to do in order to create their planet once again. That's what they had to do. And so humans can learn in that way too, taking and absorbing from many different cultures in the world. And you become almost like a polymath, where you have so much knowledge and wisdom about other different cultures and languages and different ways of being and different rituals, that you can't be racist, you can't be closed-minded, you can't be judgmental, because you absorb all of their knowledge, and you really do explore the idea of oneness consciousness, unity consciousness, when you open your mind in that way. So I think that these beings are very inspirational in that way. But I think I talked enough there. Let's go to the comments and just have a nice little chat. Thank you so much for joining, Bonita. Gina. Oh, Gina's loves Spinoza. Okay, good vibes to you. And thank you for jumping on, because you are the second person that reminded me I have to read about Spinoza, because the way that Einstein saw a creator, source, or God, if you want to call that, Spinoza's God is very similar to the way that I see things. So I know I need to read more about Spinoza. I just don't know too much, but what I have heard about him, I think that I would really agree with in many ways. So I'm glad that you jumped on. Narin, you've never seen this movie. Well, you're in for a treat. I gave you a good rundown, but the visuals, I think, are worth it, to rent and to see yourself. And like I said, you just have to watch these beings in action. You have to see this androgynous kind of beauty to them. You have to see how it's really interesting how they did it, because some of the voices, they may sound feminine or masculine, but they're in different bodies. And so you see this gender fluidity in them, but they're so peaceful. They're so graceful. It's wonderful to watch. And I love Bubble and her performance. And I think that it's a good movie. I really enjoyed it. It didn't do well at the box office, but I never go with the critics. I know that I'm always going to be a little different in that way. I tend to like things that other people don't sometimes, but I'm really happy to see that there's other people that did enjoy this movie, even though it did lose money at the box office, which is really sad. But to me, that shows that the American public, sometimes they're looking for something different, I think, than what this movie provided. But I really loved it. I recommend it. If you like aliens, if you love other types of worlds and exploring other worlds, if you like advanced beings and getting some inspiration from them, I think you'll really enjoy it. Namidia, Kat, I wish I could contribute to this conversation, but I haven't seen the movie. You'll watch it? Okay, good. I'm glad that you'll watch it. Yeah, I just kind of gave you a clear rundown. I mean, the whole point of these movies or these videos that I do is basically, if someone never gets a chance to ever watch them, well, at least they get the highlights. And what I'm trying to do is really pick out, the wisdom from these higher beings and how they can be inspirational to us, how we can learn from them, and how can they be a reflection of maybe humanity's future too, in many ways, of how we can relate to each other. hopefully. Maritza, what's the name of that movie she's talking about? Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. I just want to make sure that I wrote that down the right way. I know if you just look up Valerian, but yes, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. But like I said, Valerian, you should be able to find it on Amazon very easily that way. Merlin, welcome. Blessings to you. You haven't seen it either, but I did see a music video with them in it. Probably with Rihanna, right? Because she did some of the music. And yeah, she does sing and she does dance and she does a great job in the movie, I thought. Serena, the movie is in the description. Oh, thank you. Gina's Love Spinoza. I saw the preview a while ago. So excited she's on about it. Good. And LaRue's Pocket. Love the movie. Oh, good. I'm so glad I got one person to agree with me. No, I saw a couple other people. I don't think they got a chance to join in. But yes, I mean, this movie, The Fifth Element, I love Luc Besson. I think that he has a very big creativity. He himself, I don't know if he particularly wrote this, but he directed this because it was actually a comic book by Pierre Christian first. So I'm not sure if Luc Besson helped with the comic books. I didn't look into that too deeply there. But it is truly like a great movie. And I really love all of his movies. I just watched a new one called Angel A, and that is a very interesting one as well. He loves making those kind of alien, kind of ethereal characters. And so Angel A on Amazon is about a man. It's a French movie. This young man. Oh, and the man actually played, he was one of the friends of Amelie in the movie Amelie. So if you watched Amelie. Anyway, so he's actually very depressed and he wants to commit suicide and get rid of, some of his debt and just end his life. And instead he meets this really tall, kind of ethereal looking being, and she ends up being, well, I don't want to give it too much away, but I think the name says it all, Angel A. But the dialogue in that movie is brilliant. The way that she speaks as an angel, the way that she helps him to see his own beauty, to see the love within. It is an absolutely beautiful movie. I was so touched by it. I love Luc Besson. I just think he's a great director. And so Valerian does not disappoint with these pearls. And also with Bubble. Bubble is a short kind of cameo, but she plays in the movie for a little bit. But the pearls, it's kind of the main story around their species and how their planet was destroyed by humans and by the effects of war that didn't even concern them, and then how they have to rebuild their planet. But how also, I think, the lesson of forgiveness and just like being able to look towards the bigger picture. They're not out to be warring or revengeful towards the humans, but they're just trying to find their home again. And that I think that's really big of them, because I know that other species are a lot more violent in many ways, and they would come after those that destroyed their home. But it's a really wonderful movie. So just wanted to leave that on my channel, because my channel is all about wisdom from the earth and the stars, whatever I find that can be inspirational to our own lives and to looking at the future of humanity together as a civilization. I mean, just think if we all lived together like the pearls and, really treated each other that way, and even our worst enemies in many, many ways too. We treated them like the pearls did. I think that we can really see an advancement in our own species when we look at these types of characters. And I really do agree with Tolkien in the idea that many times we think entertainment and myth and fairy tales and stories are all just for fun, but there's a deeper reason why it's in our experience. I always believe that. And so when we really peel away, the meaning behind why something's in your experience, why are you watching something, why are you seeing it, it's because it's a message. It's a message for you, it's a message for us, and it is there for you in your experience for a particular reason, and it's just up to you to work out that message of what that means. But to me, when I look at this movie, I see it as a message for all of us. I see it as a message of where we can go, how we can be, how can we be more peaceful and live in harmony with nature. And I just think that if we learn from the beings like the pearls, well, then we can live for centuries and centuries and centuries in harmony with all the elements and never have any problems on this planet at all. So I hope everyone has a lovely rest of your weekend. Thank you for joining, and I will see you all on the next video. This wasn't going to be too long. I'm a little tired today, but I'm so happy that you all were able to jump on. And last comment, Serena, I feel like some of those in the creative industry are actually channeling and they express it in their work. I think so too. I think Luc Besson is a lot like that, and many others in many ways. I do. My name is my name. Love and peace with harmony is the way. Love you. Oh, namaste. I agree. I really do agree. And you know what? I believe that it will lead us towards the future when we are aligned to those values. We can never go wrong. We'll never destroy each other. We'll never destroy our planet. And we'll only be able to thrive more. So, yes, to the stars we go, right? Everyone have a great night, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Hope you see that movie, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Namarie, or Meleme.